You're listening to the Behind the Tee podcast, hosted by your favorite club curlers, Rob and Kelly. The show where we share our thoughts on what's happening in the curling world with the internet. But let's be real, we end up talking about football half the time anyways. Hey Rob, I have a question for you.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just leave that in. We're all good. What's your question?
No, I'll start over. Actually, I have a question for the Timbits kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How do you get over such a disappointing loss? And what I'm referring to specifically is the women's final for the Canadian Olympic trials. Because let me tell you, that was a whirlwind of a game to watch.
What a morning after. I don't even know what time it is. Unbelievable.
I know. The game started at noon Eastern time and then ended at like 3:30. So I feel like I spent my whole day just watching curling.
Me too. I feel like I aged at least 8 years watching that game as well.
Your heart took a little beating there.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who watched this game knows what we're talking about. We're recording this on Sunday afternoon, right after the women's finals of the trials that Jennifer Jones has just won, and before Brad Gushue and Brad Jacobs face off. But no one cares about that, Kelly. Oh my God.
Okay.
Where do we begin?
Actually, can we start talking about Saturday? Because I have quite a few points to talk about of stuff that happened yesterday in the semifinals and the tiebreakers.
Okay, yeah. We'll work our way up to the craziness of today.
Yeah. Saturday was, I guess, should we start with the men's semifinal with Cooey versus Jacobs?
Oh, yeah. That was
a horrible game that was.
That was one of those games where I was happy I was not there in attendance. Imagine if you go to that game and it's the only game on the ice. Fortunately, it wasn't. It was over in like 2 ends.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, I exaggerate, but...
No, but already when Jacobs took his first 4, the game was over. And it was quite interesting to see the Cooey team. They visibly hated each other during that game. Specifically, Cooey, I find, was just over his team. Because you know how calm Cooey is, right? I don't know if you caught it, but... Okay, so John Morris and Hebert were all doing their thing where they always talk. And it must have been the second end or something. And Cooey had to draw. It was the only shot. Morris is talking. Cooey's already halfway down the ice. And he's like, just put the broom down, man.
I did hear that, yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's very direct. He was just over it. I don't know. The whole team dynamic was just not there.
It seemed very... tense, for lack of a better word. The only thing I'll say in their defense is that I always get that vibe from them. I get that vibe from them when they're winning the Brier. So I think they're used to it, but I agree. And it was ugly yesterday.
Yeah, but I feel I agree what you're saying, but I feel that game, it was just a little on the negative side, you know?
I guess, yeah.
And maybe it's just the contrast because the Jacobs team, they were cool as a cucumber. They were
they're known for being
well.
Pretty intense as well, and they were very collected the whole way. But I think it was something that I noticed all week. I mean, granted, I couldn't watch as many games as I would have liked to this week. It was really busy. But I remember sending you a message I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was in the middle of the week. I had a game involving Kevin Cooey on in the background while I was working. And I remember writing to you going, it's only the second end. I'm not actively paying attention. And I've heard already 4 F-bombs from Team Cooey.
Yeah, we had a group chat.
The rage was out there.
Oh, and not just them. I heard a lot of F-bombs during that draw. Talking about Jacobs for a second, I guess last time Jacobs won the spot to go to the Olympics, they were obviously much younger by 8 years. They were known to be pretty hot-headed, pretty aggressive, very intense, and just way too much. And I think that kind of rubbed certain people the wrong way. I do know they were always the fan favorite. Watching them play this week, or actually I barely watched them play this week, but watching them play that semifinal, I kind of really like the whole demeanor of the team. They're just very cool, very calm, not overly emotional. And I don't know if the fact that they all had children mellowed them out a little bit, but I kind of like it. And I'm actually kind of cheering for them to win. I would be happy to see I'd be happy to see Jacobs win.
I get what you're saying. I had the same feeling yesterday. I was like, this is not really the same team. I also think that Mark Kennedy probably deserves a lot of credit for that. I bet he's a real calming influence, and
Well, compared to Ryan
he's a better
Fry.
third than Ryan Fry. I don't want to get in trouble, but
No, I think let's be fair. I think everyone knows Ryan Fry's personality. This is not a secret. Basically, if you put Cooey at one end of the intensity spectrum, Ryan Fry's at the complete opposite end.
I know. You know what we should do? Because like we were chatting today also, like we're projecting a lot of team breakups this year. Maybe we should try to predict who some of the new teams will be, and at the same time predict some, or just as a joke, throw out some awful combinations. Like I think Kevin Cooey should ditch BJ Neufeld, i.e. the calmest guy on his team, and replace him with Ryan Fry. Just see what happens. Just an interesting social curling experiment.
Yeah, I could. Oh man, that would be quite the team. I highly doubt that's gonna happen.
By the way, you know what?
I really wouldn't be surprised if that team shuffles up a little bit next year.
You reminded me too with when you mentioned that like maybe a lot of the people have mellowed out. You know those really cheesy, I don't know what they're called, segments they do on TSN where they interview each skip in this like talking head shot where they're each like it would mean so much for me to win the trials. I would love nothing more. The honor of wearing the maple leaf. They're all saying the same crap. And like, we're all like rolling our eyes at this. But Brad Jacobs came in and gave some cheesy answer that I'm totally going to botch here. But it was something about like, I have 2 children. I have 2 something else really notable. And I only have 1 Olympic gold medal. To have a second one to put on my other child's neck would mean the world. And it was horribly cheesy, but at least I was like, you know what? You thought about this. You put some effort into that answer. So I'm going to give it to you.
He doesn't want his children fighting over the gold medal. So he's like, if I can get 2, 1 for each child, problem solved.
This is why I should be like, yeah, that'll shut my kids up.
One final note on that game, though. So it ended after 6 ends. I think the final score was 8-3 or something. But how did they manage to shake after 6 ends?
I was wondering the same thing. You're not allowed to do that.
No, it's a finals, or not a final, but it's like the playoffs. So they had to go 10 ends.
Exactly. Now, I think the reason they could get away with not going the full distance is because the whole playoff rule is because you're supposed to be the only game on the ice, and TSN has blocked off 3 hours for you. So TSN just shifted their cameras to the other sheet.
TSN would have done that regardless. It's a rule. You have to go 10 ends.
Well, I know, but I think it's a rule for TSN made because there's supposed to be only 1 draw.
Yeah, I get it. Like the rule's kind of there for broadcasting, but it's still a rule. Remember?
I know, Eddie McKenzie.
Where they got fined because, well, first of all, it was like a total Howard destroyed him. So it made no sense. And I agree.
I was thinking about that yesterday too.
It makes no sense to keep going. But like, yo, what, you guys are like too good.
To what end? Yeah, like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to throw that out, and that was kind of a thing that I saw on Reddit and like Twitter. People were like, "Oh, so they made McCarville Jones game last night was not close."
I don't know. I wasn't able to. I was out last night, and
me too. Hold on, I'm just gonna Google this really quickly.
And I kind of wanted to like. You can Google this, but I'll keep mentioning this. That like I was wanting to ask the people that I was with. I was at somebody's house, and I was like, can you put on the trials?
I was at a bar last night and I was like, they're playing the hockey game instead of the curling
come
trials.
on, yeah. Like, don't people know where their priorities should lie?
So, yeah, the Saturday night game, semifinal McCarville versus Jones. Jones beat McCarville 8-3, and they forced them to go all 10 ends.
I remember that, yeah, because I didn't see it, but I quickly recapped it this morning, and somebody told me that, they tried to shake, and the officials wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
So what the heck? Like, and you know what? Like, I don't know if this is a good transition to this, but I have some issues with the Cooey team, and mostly, like, you know how we were talking earlier about all their cursing and swearing? Personally, that doesn't bother me. I mean, I hear swear words all the time. It's still not allowed, and some people get in trouble for it. Like when Heather Nedahin had her famous, because we don't want to swear on our podcast.
Oh, the one that starts with an S and ends with Halls.
Yes, when she said that and everybody liked it and they printed T-shirts out of it, she got fined for that. But then we got people cursing every second rock, and I mean, okay, I tried not to rant, but here it goes.
Go for it.
I'm done with that with those players that are cursing. I mean, I think Ben Hebert is one of them, and I just have no sympathy for him. I get that curling is frustrating, but you've been to the Olympics twice. I get it. If you suffer a loss like we just saw from Tracy Fleury, I get it. Go throw your broom, go curse. That was devastating. But when you miss your Leeds rock in the first end of a Wednesday night game and you start banging your broom and cursing, I'm done with that. I don't have a lot of patience for it.
No, I agree. I agree. Like I said, I don't mind. Like for me, hearing the swear words doesn't offend me. But you're right. The rule's a rule, and keep some composure.
Yeah, you remember
Jeez.
the Steve Laycock thing last year at the Briar? Like he had one outburst. He's not known for this, and everybody was giving him crap about what an unsportsmanlike player he is for having just one time when he stepped out of line. But we know there's people that do this all the time.
Oh, we
And
know some
then,
people who've broken brooms, and they just go
yeah,
and pick another broom.
we've
So
seen
who
it.
knows? Maybe they're like, maybe at the end of each competition, you know how they hand you like your check for your winnings, but they're like, we had to deduct all of these.
Here are the deductions.
Who knows? That happens behind the scenes.
That's it. I suspect like they will be fined for shaking
Oh,
early. I
for
think for
sure. I
sure they
can't.
will be. And
That's what
even
kind
then,
of
like,
everyone's expecting, that they'll just take the fine.
and you know what? You and I are the biggest advocates of shake and get out of here when it's not going your way. Like that
Yeah,
is, in my opinion, one of the best rules about the sport. But I don't know. To me, there's a bit of arrogance behind we're just going to shake anyway, and we know we're going to get fined, but we're going to do this anyway. I
for
don't know.
sure. Yeah, it does leave a sour taste in my mouth. But I don't care because I was happy that Jacobs won, and I'm happy to see them in the final. So,
Me too. And he's going to win. I can tell you why, by the way.
oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you did some stats,
I did
right?
some research. Yeah, I actually sent you a message this morning saying that Jennifer Jones was going to win and that Jacobs would win. I was right about one. I think I'll be right about the other. And
Okay.
this is the kind of stat that you can only count on the Behind the Tee podcast for.
Right.
So I looked up all the previous trials winners since curling has become a official Olympic sport in 98 for the 98 Olympics. So going back to the 97 trials, you know how every tournament has been pretty much the same thing, right? We get the top 9 or 10 men's, women's teams. But this has to do with their fashion. Okay. You know how we talked about.
I
What are
was
you
not
laughing about? You should
expecting
have.
you to say
You
that.
so should have seen the way we were going here. This is all we talk about.
Okay, please enlighten me.
Yes. So you know how we were saying last week how each team they all wear the same jacket, but they're in different colors, right?
Yeah.
It's been like this forever. So I looked at the winning pictures of all the skips or teams that have won. So get this: 97 trials winners: Mike Harris, Sandra Schmirler. Mike Harris wore white. Sandra Schmirler wore black. In 2005, Brad Gushu wore orange. That's the exception.
Right.
Shannon Kleibrink wore black. In 2009, Kevin Martin wore black. Cheryl Bernard, black. In
What?
2013, Jennifer Jones, white. Brad Jacobs, gray. Kind of an exception, but
Okay.
you can see where I'm going. And then 2017, Kevin Cooey, black. Rachel Homan wore white. This morning, Jennifer Jones, white. And Brad Jacobs, he's wearing black.
Dude, you gotta put that on the internet. Like,
I know. Like, see, this is why you have to
you
count
gotta
on us.
you gotta make an Instagram post about this.
Okay, I don't have much time. As soon as we're done recording this, I'll point it out.
I'll show you how to do a, like, you know how you can put multiple pictures in one post, but just put like, well, clearly you gotta wear black or white to win a spot to the Olympics.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Like looking back on it, the only exceptions are okay, well, I did manipulate this a little bit.
But then Gushu's
The-
wearing orange again, so maybe
That's it. But orange has only won once. It really just shows if you ever get to the trials and they're asking you what color do you want to wear, fight for black or white. Absolutely. And I mean, gray, Brad Jacobs is the other exception. He won wearing gray. But I mean,
But it's a mix of
that's-
black and white
exactly.
here.
I don't really count that. And if any really careful, astute listeners are out there, they may notice I did leave out the 2001 trials because I couldn't find pictures. But I'm going to just assume that Kevin Martin and Kelly Law wore black and white. Let's just assume that they did.
I think Kelly Law wore white. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay, there you heard it here first.
Yeah.
So based on that, I mean, we knew Tracy Fleury had no chance. Navy blue has never pulled it off. So
Oh, jeez. Okay, so right before we go into speaking about this Flurry Jones game, which I'm still like trying to process,
aren't we all?
so the women's there was like two tiebreakers. So the first game was at what, like 10 a.m. or something between
Hmm.
Scheidegger and Einarson. There'd be back-to-back tiebreakers and then the women's semifinal. So whoever from that Scheidegger Einarson game, if they won both games, like they were playing 3 games in one day.
That's right.
And I just like had I can't help but thinking about the Czech
The
girls
Czech
team
team.
who were complaining. And I was watching that draw, and it was Brian Murdrick and Kathy doing the color on it. And Brian like kind of brought that up, like one of these teams may end up playing 3 games. Like, what do you think about that? And Kathy was like, obviously, it's not ideal. I actually wrote down her quote, and she was like, it's not ideal, but if it means you're going home, you'll play 3 games, you'll even play 4. And I was like,
Well said.
that's the attitude that the Czech girls need to have if
Well
they want
said.
to be competitive curlers.
I
3 games is
agree.
exhausting, but if it means that you're going home instead of going to the Olympics, like you're going to find every ounce of energy to pull that through.
Absolutely. And they're not like the I don't know, the folks with regular jobs like us. No, they're full-time curlers. This is their thing. If anybody can pull this off, it's them. I don't really buy the argument that like, oh, 3 games, they can't do it.
No, it's
Sure
possible.
enough, they
It
couldn't do
sucks.
it yesterday, but
It completely sucks. You are exhausted, but it's totally doable. Unfortunately, we never really got to that point because Einarson won the first game, but then she lost her second one.
right. And we should also point out she could have avoided this whole tiebreaker fiasco had she beat Kelsey Rock on Friday afternoon, which she did not.
Mm.
And Kelsey Rock made, I think, one of the craziest shots of all time in
Oh,
that
that's the
game.
one you sent, right? Where
Yes.
she like narrowly skims by like 3
Four
rocks,
rocks.
4 rocks.
Four rocks. And picks out one of Carrie Einarson's rocks. The only problem is she wasn't trying that.
That still worked out
It
in her
was a
favor.
miss. Yeah, she was trying to hit one of the ones that she missed, but it worked out perfectly, and it looks so much more impressive this way. Had to get that out there.
It's like one of those shots that you just can't call for. They just happen, and you're like, sorry, but
Yeah. And then you just tell people like that's what I was going
yep,
for.
yep, yep, yep.
So she could have avoided that whole tiebreaker mess had she beaten Kelsey Rock, and
Right.
but it made it interesting yesterday.
Yeah, and then so Jones beat McCarville to go into the final, and then this morning Fleury played Jones for
Right.
that spot. I do want to point out though, because it kind of gets brought up every once in a while in this format. So Fleury went undefeated in the round robin, so she got her automatic berth to the final. But that meant she didn't play on Saturday at all.
Yeah.
It's a perk in a sense because you're only now 1 game away from the final, but you having that day break after playing for 7 days kind of breaks that momentum. And so sometimes it's not that much of a benefit necessarily compared to Jones, who only played 1 game Saturday. Like she had that momentum going into
I fully
the
agree.
final. Honestly, I think that Jones was a little more at an advantage in this final.
I know. And you know what's interesting? It was the same story at the last trials with Rachel Homan, who we're going to have to talk about today too. Shock of the week, Rachel Homan in last place.
Dead
But
last.
yeah, but Chelsea Carey went undefeated through the round robin 4 years ago and looked very flat in the finals.
Mhm.
And even though today's game was, oh my God, crazy down to the wire, what's I found really sad in watching it, I mean, I felt horribly for Tracy Fleury for many reasons that we'll get into. But one of them was that they were so good all week and they could not have picked a worse time to have their worst game probably of the year because they've been spieling well. And they still almost won.
They noticeably struggled the first half of the game.
Yeah,
Like
that
they
was the
were not.
worst they've played. Like,
Well, Selena, sorry, Negovin. I was having
yeah,
her maiden name in my head. She was curling like 40 some
40
percent.
something percent. Yeah. And she climbed out of it. It could have gone off the rails for Team Fleury very early. They were in big trouble. And Jennifer was very vulnerable, I thought. Like, she didn't
Yeah,
really put them away. And she was missing shots too. She kept
like
opening
that
the door.
last shot to win the game, but she missed it, so it went into an
Okay.
extra.
Yeah. I didn't think we were getting there just yet, but that was,
Oh, that was a roller coaster. And
I
the thing
couldn't
is,
believe that.
too, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go right there. Jones essentially had a rock in the back 4 foot ish, and then
Yeah.
Fleury wanted to like freeze on it. And the girls, I guess the adrenaline, I mean, I don't blame him. It's such a stressful game. Like the adrenaline keeps pumping and they overswept it. They should
They
have been
did.
off and they didn't. And so Fleury's rock just ended up just right next to Jones's rock. So easy, like double, and she had another rock there. So even if both rocks went away, she still would have gotten the one.
Yeah.
And then
And
Jones just
I
all
know.
the
And you know what? But
girls.
I know. But before we get to that, like, I don't really blame Team Fleury for botching the sweeping on that. I mean, you're throwing a Hail Mary freeze to save your season. It's we all know it's probably not going to work out. What really was bad was that Fleury was chasing that whole game, and then she got into the 10th end, kind of where she needed to be, with
Yeah.
like up one without. But early in the end, Jones had nothing going for her, and poor Liz Fife had the world's easiest double peel, and she completely botched it. She not only left the shooter, didn't get the double, and made the angle worse.
Yeah.
And right then, you could tell Jennifer was about to win the game. Like that to me was the turning point in that end. The fact that Tracy may have, or that they didn't sweep the proper way on Tracy's last shot was, to me, like they were desperate by after they missed that double peel.
Oh, for sure, like that double peel definitely changed the momentum of that end. But the thing is that obviously a freeze isn't the easiest shot, but it was very much like a mistake that they overswept it. And Fleury knew everyone knew the game is over because Jones had such an easy shot for the win. And then Jones missed it, and they put the camera on Fleury, and I don't know if you saw her reaction. She like just put her hand to her mouth and was just like, "Oh my god, I just have another shot at this." Like she thought she was done. And then
Hmm.
just to know that you have a second chance.
I know it. What a roller coaster
Ugh.
of emotions that was. And we can maybe talk about this, but we're pretty unbiased when we watch curling, but and we're not going to make any. Well, we have our opinions, but we were cheering for Tracy Fleury.
Oh, we are very biased in this
Yeah,
game. Absolutely.
yeah, we wanted to see Tracy Fleury
Yeah.
win, and yet when that happened, when Jennifer missed that, I felt horribly. I felt sick watching her do that. I mean, not that I would know what it's like to throw a shot to go to the Olympics, but can you imagine being in that position and totally botching it the way she did?
Oh,
I
yeah.
I f- I felt sick watching it. It reminded me of, like, we're gonna dump on Maple Leaf fans here for a moment, Kel.
Oh, go for it.
2013. Do I have the year right? I think I do. Maple Leaf fans will know right away. They are playing in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs against Boston, and they have a 4-1 lead with 10 minutes to go in Game 7.
Oh, I remember
They're
this.
cruising to a victory, and Boston scores a goal with maybe 10 minutes left. Okay, 4-2, no big deal. And then it's still 4-2 with maybe a minute to go, and Boston scores 2 goals in the last minute to tie the game. They would go to overtime and win it. And I remember, I mean, I don't like either team, but living in Montreal, we cannot ever support Toronto.
Mhm.
I remember watching that being like, you know what? I feel bad for Maple Leaf fans. No one wants to lose like that. And I remember sitting here going, I was cheering for Tracy Fleury, but I felt horribly for Jennifer when she missed that shot. I don't know. I felt like I extended sympathy. And by the way, to compare Jennifer Jones to the Toronto Maple Leafs
It's not fair.
is not fair to Jennifer Jones.
I guess for me, my happiness for Fleury overrode my sadness for Jones.
Yeah, like I wanted her to win, but not like that.
And even then, Fleury missed her last shot
And then I
to.
felt the exact same emotions again 15 minutes later.
I felt so
Oh,
bad
I
for Fleury
know.
when she
And
missed
granted,
that.
it was a much tougher shot than Jennifer's shot. Like, she
Yeah,
had to paper that guard.
yeah.
It was not easy in the 11th end in a whole game where, like, Rocks had been over curling on them. But I don't know. I felt sick watching that too. I felt sick watching both of them miss their shots for the win.
It was an emotional roller coaster as a
I
fan.
felt so drained.
And usually I don't get that invested in watching games. Usually I'm just
Me
like, oh,
neither. And it's to
happy.
go to the Olympics.
I
I
know.
can't even believe there's another game on tonight. Like, I feel like I'm completely checked out now.
Well, I think too because it's to go to the Olympics, both teams are just so much more like invested in it. And I made a comment in our group chat here where I don't know what you think because I vaguely remember Jones winning last time, or even when she won her other like championships. She seems way more emotional now than she has ever done in the past. Like before she was pretty like collected. Like she was happy, but like now she was crying. She was hugging Caitlyn and like spinning her around and just like hugging everyone. Like I've never seen a Jones like that. I
I
don't know. What
can't
do you think?
comment because I turned off the TV. I couldn't bear to watch any longer. I felt so bad watching this. It was such an emotional investment. But I can speculate, and this is another thought that I think we should discuss, is that so much goes into these 4 years, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
your 4 year team and everything. And the nature of this tournament is that it's going to work out horribly for a lot of these teams. For Tracy Fleury, this is no consolation to her. I feel so horribly, but what a week it was, and what a trend she appears to be on. It's great for her, but you look at the teams that have disappointed, like Rachel Homan. Think of the past 4 years. I mean, we were saying that like she was your pick to win. I think.
Yeah. Well, you thought she was going to be in the final.
Okay, yeah. So, well, you dodged the accusation there, but just to get back to my point here is
Mm-hmm.
that so much goes into everything over these 4 years, and it works out. It doesn't. It only works out for one team, and for a lot of teams, they don't come close. For this year, it was Rachel. And if you talk about how some teams were kind of maybe trending downwards in the last couple of years, we all kind of thought that Jennifer's
Mm-hmm.
team was trending downwards. Carrie Einerson was the better team over the last few years. Rachel Homan was the better team over the last few years. And there were a couple of other people that were getting in there. And so my feeling is that I think Jennifer herself may have seen the ball going out of the ballpark here on her career and being like,
Probably.
this is it. It's now or never. And we're not even spieling that well. And we've been very shaky all week. They were shaky all week. She was like tied for seventh among skips or something. So for her to pull it off in this way, even though she's won everything and anything, I think that's where the emotion came from, is that back when she won the last time, everybody kind of figured she would win. She was the team to beat.
She was at the peak of her career, let's say.
Exactly. And now everybody knows that those days are behind her, including herself. And I think that's why the emotion came out, just to
Yeah.
speculate.
No, no, no. You bring up a fair point too. And as they mentioned during the broadcast, she is 47 years old. So I think this is also her last shot at the Olympics. I don't know if she's going to go for another 4 years. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't.
It'll make the decision easier if she wants to bail on it now that she can get to go again.
If one thing that curlers are good to do is gossip and share their opinions on other curlers. But remember the drama of last year of Holman making the announcement that they've removed Lisa Weigel from the team and replaced her with Sarah Wilkes. And now
Right.
Lisa Weigel, she got picked up by Jones and is now going to the Olympics, and Holman finished last.
I know that part's very interesting.
Ooh,
I'm happy for Lisa.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just want to throw that out there because it's always, well, I mean, Jones had her drama too with the whole Kathy O thing. We just love to hear those stories.
We love it. I mean, yeah, this Netflix series, man, it's going to be good.
We need a Netflix series. But actually, in one of the games I was watching home and play in the round robin, they were talking about how they weren't as prepared as they would have liked to be going into the trials here because, well, Marcel Rock, former player of the Randy Furby rink.
There's our Randy Furby shout out. Good job.
So apparently he was sick over the summer and only kind of got back into things in September or October, like,
Okay. I
essentially
didn't
very
know that.
recently. And I don't know what he had, but apparently he was sick enough where he could not like function
Oh, no.
in curling. And so Rock was saying how he also kind of feels personally responsible for the home and team not performing as well as they expected because like he definitely had like points he wanted to work with the team, but wasn't able to address any of these issues or work on any of these things they wanted to work on because he was out of commission. And so therefore like the team just wasn't as prepared, and it is a new team with Sarah Wilk. Even if it's one new player, it does change the whole dynamic of the team, and Joanne Courtney now playing lead and et cetera, et cetera. So fortunately just the cards weren't in her favor going into the trials. So
No, and it's so interesting because it was okay, no, sorry. She did very well at the Tournament of Hearts. She lost the final, but that was, hey, Sarah Wilkes is on the team and we've had no practice games because of COVID. We're just going to enter the bubble and see how it goes, and
yeah.
they won't be happy because they lost the final, but I'm still surprised
Yeah.
that they played this poorly. And I mean, I've been talking to people who have been saying like, "Oh my God, she came last place." But in her defense, I think that when she was eliminated or when it was too much of a hill to climb, they're not going to play their best. A
Yeah.
team like that is here to win the whole event. I mean, if you and I were on a team playing in the Olympic trials, I think we would give it our best shot, even if we were 0 and 10, and just to finish out the round robin, because we would soak up every moment of being like, holy crap, we're playing in the Olympic trials. But for a team like Rachel, who has very serious aspirations of winning it, once they were done, I think it was too much of an emotional investment too. And I don't
Mhm.
blame them. I don't blame them for not being there. They could have been a lot better than 2 and 7 or whatever, 2 and 6 if they really wanted to.
Your final record isn't really indicative of like how well you played. Like you could have lost a game and played really well and then just had like one bad shot that caused the other team to win. Like it doesn't mean that you played poorly every game.
It's true, although they did play a bit poorly.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying in general, like you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, it's a tough field. Like you literally had the 9 best teams in Canada playing. It's not easy. It's not like the Scotties where you have a couple of teams that you are like easy wins, if you will.
I know. I mean, like, look at Brendan Botcher, miserable week. Matt Dunstone, another miserable week. Like, I mean, Tanner Horgan had the most miserable week of all, but
But he also knew that he was not winning. Like
perhaps
yeah.
so, yeah. But there were a lot of people there with aspirations of winning. That it's the nature of the way this sport is done. It's not possible for everybody to do well,
Right.
and I just again I think it's interesting what the last 4 years have all been about because really not much. It's
Yep.
all kind of like meaningless. It's who shows up in November of 2021 to
Yep. It's whatever team manages to peak right at that right moment. As it's not easy.
and you can listen to the Behind the Tee podcast and hear who we project to be trending downwards, as we said, like Eve Muirhead.
Well, hold on. Talking about our predictions, I'm just gonna
Uh-oh.
say that I win by the sheer
No.
fact that I picked Fleury to be in the top 3.
Okay, you did. What did I say?
You went for Einerson, Home, and Walker.
Okay. Wow, I went 0 for 3 on that.
And then for the men, we both picked Gushu to win.
Okay.
But then the other teams we put were both Kui and Botcher, who have been eliminated. So by process of elimination, I win.
I guess so. I
Um,
guess so. That was some really creative dodging of the question by Kelly there. Pointing it because yeah, Eve Muirhead, we got to talk about that.
we have to talk about the Europeans because there are also some upsets that happened there. Not specifically talking about Muirhead, but yeah, Scotland, both the men's and the women's, won the European Championship. So congratulations.
We love the Euros. And unfortunately, they were on at the same time as the trials, so I followed nothing. I had it on in the morning. Can I just quick aside? I mean, we love Vic and Russ and Cheryl, and but I don't know if you've ever heard TSN cover they take some Scottish commentators from this Euro broadcast,
Mhm.
and they talk like this. That was a really exciting shot.
Oh, yeah, it's very monotone.
Oh, it's awful. Like
Yeah,
we're
I don't
forever
follow.
stuck with the stigma of curling being a boring sport, and that's not going to help.
They need that announcer from Men with Brooms.
They need that guy, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But Muirhead won the Europeans. However, she still has not solidified a place in the Olympics yet. She has to play in the Olympic qualifier event in
No, but I
December.
think that'll be a big confidence booster
For
because
sure.
nothing is more shameful than being called out by us. And for her to turn around and take that criticism and to win the Europeans, I mean, hey, all the more power to her.
Maybe that's it. She listened to the previous week's episode and she's like, I'm going to show them this Behind the Tea podcast, just what I'm made of.
That's it. And hey, Eve, you did it. We're proud.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
But do you know who did not make it?
Who did not make it? I should know.
Switzerland
They didn't.
didn't make the playoffs.
They didn't make the playoffs.
Neither the men's, neither the women's.
Okay, so wait. I saw it because for the men it was I saw that well Scotland and Sweden made it, no big surprise, but Italy also made it, right? And was the other team Norway, I believe?
Yep. So it was Scotland and Sweden, both on the men's and the women's in the final. And then for the men's, Italy beat out Norway, and Switzerland was just that team coming next. And for the women's,
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but same thing. Switzerland did not make the playoffs, which is pretty surprising because that's a team, that's a country that you kind of always expect to be one of the better performing ones, or at least always in a
Yeah.
playoff.
Very interesting. But I mean, if there's one thing we've learned, the kind of recurring theme from today is that none of this matters.
Nope.
Speak to us in February.
Yeah, look, the other countries are catching up to the big ones. So
Yeah,
we're getting to a point where upsets are going to become the norm. They're not going
I
to be
know.
upsets anymore.
Yeah, and there's really no point in like, well, actually, there is a point because this is what we do every Sunday. But there is no point in trying to predict like, oh, I think this team's going to be the team that wins it all in 4 years. I mean, hey, and Turkey was in this as well. New to the European A's, right?
Yeah, well, they actually qualified for the World Championship, so we'll be
They
seeing
did.
them.
Okay, we'll be
Yeah, so
seeing them.
congratulations, Turkey. But speaking of Turkey,
It was American Thanksgiving.
yes.
I'm just kidding. That's not the segue I was going for.
Okay.
Even I'm ashamed of that. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I saw on Instagram the Italian team posted this actually, where there was a bunch of rocks in play. Turkey was coming in for a takeout. They hit a guard that hit a whole bunch of rocks. Rocks went flying, and they ended up sitting like three. But one of their rocks kind of ricocheted off the board and back into the rings to bite the back 12. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I didn't see it properly.
did you not see? Yeah, the rock ricocheted, went back into the back 12, and then the Italian third pushed the rock because it was technically out. But then one of the Turkey players just kind of bolted at her and like grabbed her wrist and be like, "Hey, like don't remove that rock." And it was like a little kerfuffle. What did
I'm
you think it
rewatching it.
was?
I'm rewatching it now. Hold on. I thought it was about the celebration.
Yeah, so hold on. Let me just read you the comment that the Italian team posted. So this is the final stone of the fourth end that we played against Turkey where they scored 5 points. It's clear that the correct number of points scored by them was 4 and their shooter should have been removed from play since it bounced back in, but it was counted as a 5th point because they affirmed that the stone was still in play. We believe that it's really important to have the chance to watch all the videos available. So yeah, basically Turkey got a free point.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna blame you for this because you didn't set that up when you sent it to me.
What? The video and then
Well, I clicked and watched the video, and I just see a bunch of rocks flying, and I can't tell who shot or anything. I didn't pay attention to the rock coming.
did you not see all of the important emojis at the bottom?
No. When you send it, okay, keep in mind, I only learned how to use Instagram like very recently. I still don't know how to use it. Oh, wait,
And then I wrote Turkey needs to learn good sportsmanship.
I thought you were referring to like they
The
go
celebration.
a couple of them go crazy, and I was like, to me, it just looked like a routine shot, and they were like going really nuts. That's what I thought you were talking
Oh
about.
no, I was talking about the Turkey player lunging at the Italian one, being like, "Hey, don't remove that rock."
But how do they even count that? I mean, it's clear that it went. Can't you just get out your phone and be like, look, it clearly hit the wall?
Well, here's my thing. It's like usually there's an official or some like the
Yes.
score person keeping track of where the rocks are, right? There's always someone who will put the score up on the scoreboard, but they walk around with a little
Yeah,
magnetic
that's super
board
accurate strategy board.
in case like you need to refer to it. So like did no one beside the Italian third see the rock go out of bounds?
That's ridiculous. And like the fact that they have film of it. You could just go look
Yeah.
at it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know like in curling clubs, we're always kind of in a hard between a rock and a hard place. Bad curling pun.
Yeah.
With things like that, but you have the technology here. The game's being filmed.
Yeah, so I'm really curious like why they also got the 5th point because essentially like the thirds have to come to an agreement, right?
Exactly. And there's no agreement here. So an official would have to come in and be like,
And if anything they should null the point.
yeah, I don't get it. And really, if we're looking at video of this and
And it's
then,
very obvious in the video. It's very obvious that the rock went
oh,
out of
yeah.
bounds and bounced
Yeah.
off the boards. So, yeah, I just want to shout out to the Italian team that like
Yeah, no,
good
exactly.
on you for, trying to
For spotting that. So what end was that in?
I don't remember. I don't know.
And did they win? I guess they won the game then, Turkey, or scoring
Um
5. I'm imagining that's
Yeah. No, you can't tell in the video. Oh, actually, hold on. Final stone of the fourth end. So yeah,
Okay.
that's definitely a game changer. I mean, 4 or 5 doesn't really matter, but
Okay.
that's a
Well,
huge.
when you sent it, I admittedly did not read the caption because the first thing is just a whole but like 15 little exclamation points.
Yeah.
So you have to scroll down, and I don't know how to do that. But it's a true story. But what I thought it was just they celebrated pretty flamboyantly, and I'm
They
like,
did.
well, now I understand why, because they got 4 or 5. I thought at first glance that it was just a routine shot, and they were all like, all right, yeah, like high fiving each other, and that I was like, okay, tone it down.
That too.
But now that I know that they scored 4 or maybe 5, I'm like, no, I'm okay with that. And really, it's a big deal for them. I would just tell them to quote one of your favorite ads: "The other team has feelings too."
No, it's called good
Tim
curling
Hortons.
etiquette.
It's called Timbits of Wisdom.
Oh dear. Also, remember we were wondering last week why the Russian men's team was in the B event
Yeah,
when they
yeah.
did so well in the Worlds? I got an answer for you.
Enlighten us.
In the 2019 European Championship, they were in the A, but they got relegated down to the B. And then in 2020, there was no European Championship because
Right.
of the pandemic. And so there were some spots available to go to the World Championship. And what they did is that they took the first ranked team on like the WCT points, and the
Okay.
Russian men's team was like the next one on the list. So that's how they got into the Worlds, but were also relegated to the B. So
And they did
that's
really well at those worlds. That's
they
what's
did.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
But
Oh, it all makes
that's the
sense now.
answer to that. But they also got their spot to the Olympics too. So it's really weird how all of this happens.
This is where we like air out our last few things that we write down. And I don't know, Kelly, it all seems pretty meaningless now after today. I had a page ready for Russisms
Yeah.
because we love Russ Howard, but I don't really remember any, and it's all a blur to me now.
Yeah.
I have a
Actually,
new like. Oh,
one
go ahead.
thing that I noticed, did you hear a lot of buzzing on the TSN broadcast?
I think so. It rings a bell now that you mention it. I remember hearing like some background noise.
Saturday, I heard it a lot. Like it was incredibly noticeable.
I don't know. I was maybe not watching the same draw.
Oh, it happened like on multiple draws.
Okay. I usually had it like with very little sound on though,
Okay,
so
so
or I
that's
was doing
why.
something else. I was not really actively paying attention for much of the week.
Okay, because that was my thing. I heard it quite often. I'm like, oh, that's really weird, especially when they switched sheets. And for a while, I was like, is that just my TV or like my signal not like being weird? But then I saw on Reddit that a lot of other people kind of noticed the same thing. And the speculation is that the new rock handles may be interfering with the
Oh,
broadcast.
interesting. Because they are new rock handles. You
Yeah,
can
because
tell
like it
those.
was very much like a scrunch, scrunch, scrunch like sound. So that's why I'm like, if you haven't noticed it, that I'd be surprised.
I did not notice because I had it on pretty quietly, and for this afternoon's game, I was watching it with my family, and we were all yelling at the TV, so there was no hearing anybody or anything like that. The other thing I noticed, by the way, is that you know those electronic scoreboards that they used to have? Where were they? You know when like they display the score behind the sheet? Like
Yeah.
they were doing it the old-fashioned way. They had a person walking up there and hanging signs, and I was going,
I like the old-fashioned way.
I do too, but I was like, what a waste of money those stupid electronic scoreboards
Exactly.
must have been. But where are they?
They're probably in a storage shed somewhere. Probably left in Calgary where the bubble was,
Yeah, maybe the
just in
players
case.
don't like them. I was wondering about that. Maybe
Mm.
because like, do you really want to be staring at some digital screen thing behind the broom that you're aiming at? I don't
Well, they
know.
already had a lot of screens. Like they had the main jumbotron, and then they put screens at each corner of the arena, so that if you're a player, you can see. Like, let's say you're the front end, and they want to see what the situation is in the house. You can just look at the screen. So that was kind of cool. So maybe they put their investments in those instead of scoreboards, because not everything has to be digitalized. Digitized tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. By the time this comes out, we will all know who has won between Gushu and Jacobs. But I think it'll be definitely a good game, especially if both teams play like they played, Jacobs yesterday and Gushu all week.
It's true. I mean, we devoted a lot of time today to talking about the Fleury Jones game, and we'll be devoting a lot of time for the rest of our lives talking about that game, in
Yeah.
fairness. But we haven't gotten to say too much about Gushu and Jacobs, but I think they've been by far the class of the field.
I expect a lot of run back, takeout, double takeouts.
Oh, I know. And it's going to be hard. I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm so emotionally drained from this afternoon. But we'll check it out. We'll have our comments next week. And you heard it here first. It's such a toss-up of who's going to win. That's why bet on the team that wears black.
There you go. Catch us next week. Bye.
Bye.